how can you bring public access to the public domain? It may sound obvious that you'd have public access to the public domain, but in fact, it's not true. So the public domain should be free to all, but it's often locked up. There's often, guard cages. It's like having a national park, but with a moat around it and gun turrets pointed out in case somebody might want to actually come and enjoy the public domain. One of the things Aaron was particularly interested in is bringing public access to the public domain. This is one of the things that got him into so much trouble.
I had been trying to get access to federal court records in the United States. What I discovered was a puzzling system called PACER, which stands for Public Access to Court Electronic Records. I started Googling, and that's when I ran across Carl Malamud.
Access to legal materials in the United States is a $10 billion per year business.
PACER is just this incredible abomination of government service. It's 10 cents a page. It's this most brain-dead code you've ever seen. You can't search it. You can't bookmark anything. You got to have a credit card. And these are public records. U.S. district courts are very important. It's where a lot of our seminal litigation starts, civil rights cases, patent cases, all sorts of stuff. And journalists and students and citizens and lawyers all need access to PACER, and it fights them every step of the way. People without means can't see the law as readily as people that have that gold American Express card. It's a poll tax on access to justice.
The law is the operating system of our democracy, and you have to pay to see it. That's not much of a democracy.
They make about $120 million a year on the PACER system, and it doesn't cost anything near that, according to their own records. In fact, it's illegal. The E-Government Act of 2002 states that the courts may charge only to the extent necessary in order to reimburse the costs of running PACER.
As the founder of public.resource.org, Malamud wanted to protest the PACER charges. He started a program called the PACER Recycling Project, where people could upload PACER documents they had already paid for to a free database so others could use them.
The PACER people were getting a lot of flack from Congress and others about public access. And so they put together this system. In 17 libraries across the country, there was free PACER access. That's one library every 22,000 square miles, I believe, so it wasn't really convenient.
I encouraged volunteers to join the so-called Thumb Drive Corps and download docs from the public access libraries, upload them to the PACER recycling site.
People take a thumb drive into one of these libraries and they download a bunch of documents and they send them to me. And nothing, it was just a joke. In fact, when you clicked on Thumb Drive Core, there was a Wizard of Oz, the Munchkins singing, so a little video clip came up.
We represent the lollipop, yeah.
But of course, I get this phone call from Steve Swartz and Aaron saying, gee, we'd like to join the Thumb Drive Core.
Around that time, I ran into Aaron at a conference.
This is something that really has to be a collaboration between a lot of different people.
So I approached him and I said, hey, I'm thinking about an intervention on the PACER problem.
Schultz had already developed a program that could automatically download PACER documents from the trial libraries. Swartz wanted to take a look.
So I showed him the code. And I didn't know what would come next, but as it turns out, over the course of the next few hours at that conference, he was off sitting in a corner, improving my code, recruiting a friend of his that lived near one of these libraries to go into the library and to begin to test his improved code, at which point the folks at the courts realized something's not going quite according to plan.
And data started to come in and come in and come in, and soon there were 760 gigabytes of PACER docs, about 20 million pages.
Using information retrieved from the trial libraries, Swartz was conducting massive, automated parallel downloading of the PACER system. He was able to acquire nearly 2.7 million federal court documents almost 20 million pages of text.
Now, I'll grant you that 20 million pages had perhaps exceeded the expectations of the people running the Pilot Access project, but surprising a bureaucrat isn't illegal.
Aaron and Carl decided to go talk to the New York Times about what happened.
They also caught the attention of the FBI, who began to stake out Swartz's parents' house in Illinois.
But I get a tweet from his mother saying, "Call me." It's like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? And so I finally got a hold of Aaron, and you know, Aaron's mother was like, "Oh my God, FBI, FBI, FBI."
An FBI agent drives down our home's driveway trying to see if Aaron is like in his room. And I remember being home that day and wondering why this car was driving down our driveway and just driving back out. I was like, that's weird. Like 5 years later, I read this FBI file and I'm like, oh my goodness. That was the FBI agent in my driveway.
He was terrified. He was totally terrified. He was way more terrified after the FBI actually called him up on the phone and tried to sucker him into coming down to a coffee shop without a lawyer. He said he went home and laid down on the bed and you know, was shaking.
The downloading also uncovered massive privacy violations in the court documents. Ultimately, the courts were forced to change their policies as a result. And the FBI closed their investigation without bringing charges.
To this day, I find it remarkable that anybody, even at the most remote podunk field office of the FBI, thought that a fitting use for taxpayer dollars was investigating people for criminal theft on the grounds that they had made the law public. How can you call yourself a lawman and think that there can possibly be anything wrong in this whole world with making the law public?